Hello, everyone. This is Scott Green, Organizational Development Manager with the City of Corpus Christi's Human Resources Department. In this presentation, I will be covering the process for completing FY21 evaluations for employees on the 200 and 300 pay plans. I'm going to provide a brief overview of the importance of the employee evaluations and then walk through the process for completing these forms. The City of Corpus Christi's employee performance evaluation process is designed to provide employees clear metrics used to measure job performance, to recognize superior employee contributions, and to develop clear goals for performance improvement and career development. We're going to take a look at the classifications of the 200 and 300 employees. 200 paid plan employees fall into two categories: non-supervisor and supervisor. They are both salaried and they are both exempt. And with this, we also have two separate forms that we will be using for the 200 paid plan employees, and we'll cover those forms a little bit later. Our 300 paid plan employees fall into the director and executive levels of the organization. And like the 200s, they are salaried, exempt, and they also have their own forms. $200 and $300 paid plan employees who are eligible for evaluations are those who have been in their position by March 31st, 2021. Some valuable resources that are available to both supervisor and the employee are 90-day or 6-month employee reviews. Many supervisors will take initiative early in an employee's career with the city to provide feedback on their performance. Another great resource is an employee self-assessment. Often supervisors will have their employee complete self-assessments as part of a continuous feedback loop throughout the performance year. Please note that the resources such as these may be found at learningcc.org/perform. Here is an overview of the evaluation process timeline. Remember, we are covering performance that takes place between October 1st, 2020 and September 30th, 2021. October 1st of this year through October 31st, the supervisor will complete the appropriate evaluation form and submit it to their director for approval. During this time, the department will also complete the proposed merit budget spreadsheet using the ratings on the department's evaluations. And this spreadsheet will be sent out by the compensation team to the department director. The deadline to return these spreadsheets to compensation is November 3. From November 8th through November 12th, the compensation team will review and prepare the spreadsheets for executive leaders team review. From November 15th through December 3rd, the ELT will review, adjust, and approve all department merit spreadsheets. Once the spreadsheets have been approved, the supervisor may now sit with the employee to discuss and acknowledge the evaluation. The departments will now begin submitting Form 12s for merit increases to HR based off the approved ratings. If all goes well and everyone stays on track, the completed appraisal forms will be sent to HR for review and filing by January 7th. Now let's move on to the actual evaluation completion process. In order to have an evaluation completed on them, the employee will have to have been in their position by March 31st, 2021. This slide shows an overview of the overall rating and its correlating merit pay increase. If an employee receives an overall rating of 1, this equals a does not meet standards, and there will be no merit pay increase. If an employee receives an overall rating of 2, this equals a needs improvement, and there is a 1% increase. If the employee receives an overall rating of 3, this equals a meets expectations, and there is a 3% merit pay increase. And lastly, if the employee receives an overall rating of 4, meaning they exceed expectations, they will receive a 5% merit pay increase. Let's take a quick look at the bell curve system for the 200s and 300 employees. We are completing the appraisals, the evaluations with genuine realistic scoring. You can expect the ratings to fall into a bell curve, such as the one on this image. Most of your employees may fall into the middle, 70% average performers, most likely the meets expectations or needs improvement. A few employees may fall into the 20% high performers, meaning they are the top performers in the organization, the top performers in your department, and they are most likely exceeding expectations. And there's a good chance that you will also have individuals that fall into the low 10%. As you prepare to take on and complete these evaluations, there are some steps that you want to take on first. Step 1, before you start to complete either the 200 or 300 pay plan forms, you will need to ensure your computer has Adobe PDF Reader. If not, you may contact IT to have it downloaded. Step 2, you will need to download the appropriate evaluation form directly to your computer. The forms are fillable PDFs with built-in formulas. In order to complete the form and for the formulas to work, the form will need to be downloaded, like I said, directly to your computer. The 200 pay plans have 2 types of evaluations, a non-supervisor appraisal and a supervisor appraisal. The competencies are slightly different, as well as some of the formatting between these 2 forms. And lastly, executive leadership, the 300s have their own form as well. We take a look at the 200 non-supervising employees. The heading shows at the top that this is a 200 pay plan appraisal for an employee who is not a supervisor or manager. The next one is the 200 supervising. As you can see from the heading at the top of this form, this is a 200 pay plan appraisal for an employee who is a supervisor or manager. The competencies on this appraisal are meant to help reflect how the leader supported staff throughout the year, as well as other measures such as decision-making and strategic thinking. At the top, you will notice that there is check boxes for both the annual and planning review. The planning review has been incorporated into this evaluation, and you will no longer be required to fill out 2 forms. This one form will have an area where you can set goals for the next rating period. Use the checkbox simply to ensure that you have filled out the section that requires you to set goals for the upcoming fiscal year. And finally, the 300 pay plan form. And the major difference between this form and the 200s are the competencies being measured. However, they do look very similar. So as a sign of caution, just make sure that when you are completing the evaluations for the 200 and 300 pay plans, you are utilizing the correct form. Let's take a look at filling out the evaluation form. The top part of the form includes the employee's information such as name, employee number, department, job title, supervisor's name. Next, you will apply a numerical value to the performance competencies. 1 equals does not meet, 2 equals needs improvement, 3 equals meets expectations, 4 equals exceeds expectations. This form is formulated so that you cannot put a number below 1 or above 4. And if for some reason you're able to do so, you may need to contact us or contact IT to ensure you have the correct form or the correct Adobe Reader on your computer. As you score throughout the form, you will automatically formulate the overall score of the appraisal. Looking at scoring goals and responsibilities. You should have a reference to be able to look at from last year on what the goals and responsibilities were from previous evaluation season. If you do not have a copy of last year's evaluation, you may reach out to the Organizational Development Division for a copy. You can email us at learninginstitute@cctexas.com. You'll go back, determine if they were met or not, or how well they were accomplished using the 1 through 4 scoring scale. One thing to point out is that these goals are weighted. If you identify that one goal was more important than the other, you can adjust the percentages. The percentages for both goals must equal 100%. The form is formulated so that you should receive an error message if you do not accurately weigh the goals. If you put 60 and 30% or 50 and 40%, since they do not equal to 100, you will receive an error message. If you feel the goals and responsibilities are of equal importance, then you can simply weight them at 50% and 50%. Towards the end of completing the form, you will see the Section 5 Reviewer Statement of Overall Performance. The supervisor will provide a brief description of the employee's performance for the review period. They may suggest future roles or responsibilities and even recommended areas of improvement if needed. The supervisor may also review the overall score for accuracy. Next, the supervisor and director will sign and date the form. This will complete phase 1 of the evaluation process. Keep in mind, before the employee even looks at this form, it is important that the supervisor send this up to the director for review. After this, the director will forward this and all 200, 300 evaluations from their department to the executive leadership team for the ELT review, and this is also known as phase 2. When ELT has completed their review, they may provide updates to the appraisal and the overall score. They may recommend changes to the overall score. They may include new information. Once this is done and all the appropriate updates have been entered onto the form, it is now available for employee comments and acknowledgement. The supervisor will then meet with the employee and review the entirety of the form, looking at the scores and the comments. This is now where the employee may provide their own comments. If they decide to not leave any comments, it is suggested that they put no comment or NA. After leaving comments, the employee will sign and date. Please note that the signature does not constitute agreement with the performance evaluation, but they are acknowledging it has been discussed with them by their supervisor. Completed forms will be submitted to learningcc.org/performexempt. Also note that all 200 and 300 forms will be reviewed by the HR director and employee relations. Overall, we can look at the evaluation process in several phases. We'll look at the preparation phase, ensuring that you have the correct IT setup and that you have downloaded the correct forms. Phase 1, this is where the evaluations are completed and submitted to directors and ELT for review, adjustments, and approvals. And then phase 2 and for the 200 pay plan and phase 2 for the 300 pay plan are pretty similar. Supervisors will make the correct adjustments, meet with the employee to acknowledge and sign the evaluation, and lastly, send to HR for review, record keeping, and filing. So before we close this session, let's do a quick review. You want to make sure that you have the correct IT setup, meaning that you have Adobe PDF Reader, and download the correct form per employee being evaluated. Also on learningcc.org/perform, you'll find this video, helpful guides, and other tools to assist you with. Keep in mind, for the 200 and 300s, we have 3 separate forms: 200 non-supervising, 200 supervising, and 300 executive leadership. And another review of the timeline. Keep in mind, we are covering performance that takes place between October 1st, 2020 and September 30th, 2021. October 1 through 31 of this year, the supervisor will complete the appropriate evaluation form and submit to their director for approval. During this time, the department will complete the proposed merit budget spreadsheet using the ratings on the department's evaluations. And this spreadsheet will be sent directly to the department director by our compensation team here in HR. The deadline to submit and return these spreadsheets to compensation is November 3rd. From November 8th through the 12th, the compensation team will review and prepare the spreadsheets for executive leadership team's review. From November 15th through December 3rd, the ELT will review, adjust, and approve all department merit spreadsheets. Once these spreadsheets have been approved by ELT, the supervisor may now sit with the employee to discuss and acknowledge the evaluation. Keep in mind, this may also be around the time that the supervisor will have to make adjustments to the evaluation form if suggested by the ELT. The department will now begin submitting Form 12s for merit increase to HR based on the approved ratings. And if all goes well and everyone stays on this timeline, the completed appraisals forms will be sent to HR for final review and filing by January 7th. This concludes this presentation. And as always, if you have questions, please reach out to the organizational development team at learninginstitute@cctexas.com. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.